What's up, everybody? My name's Nathan, and today I want to introduce you to BubbleGumshoe. The nice thing about BubbleGumshoe is that this game doesn't require a full set of dice with like a d20, a d10, and all of those. So there are no dice goblins necessary, though they are always welcome to play at our tables. This game just utilizes a d6. BubbleGumshoe was made by Evil Hat Productions, and it's based off of the traditional gumshoe noir detective system, but here you are playing teenagers. So it's something in the vein of Nancy Drew, the Hardy Boys, Veronica Mars, or the Scooby Gang, Mystery Incorporated, if you will. A lot of your traditional detective skills are here. So you're going to see things like filch, sneak, and notice, but you're also going to see a lot of skills that are focused on the teen demographic. So you're going to see skills like gossip, flattery, and BS detector, grown-up face, things like that. A lot of our favorite tabletop moments have actually happened playing this game at my table. We love it. You're just teenagers solving crimes in a small town. It's as simple as that. But it's led to some of the best laugh out loud situations, some very sentimental moments, and we've even used Gumshoe to teach RPGs to a whole new generation. People have never played an RPG before, which is always a lot of fun. So let's dive into it. In BubbleGumshoe, characters are created using a point-buy system from different skill pools. There are 3 different skill pools. The first is investigative. Investigative would include skills like town lore, research, and notice. The second skill pool is interpersonal. This would include skills like taunt, flattery, and grown-up face. And then finally, there's a general abilities skill pool. That's skills like driving, first aid, or preparedness. Preparedness is actually a really neat ability because it's the idea that your character would have remembered to bring a tool or an item that's important for this scenario. In detective stories, it's like, did I bring duct tape? Did I bring a screwdriver? Would I have a flashlight on me? And so you make a skill roll to see would your character have remembered that. In general abilities, there's also 2 very important skills that are unique to this game system that I think are worth mentioning. The first is cool. It's capital COOL, like all caps. And the idea of cool is that you can keep your cool in a tense situation. You can keep your cool under pressure. Cool is also important, though, because certain places within the town will have a cool threshold to allow your characters to enter them. For example, maybe a biker bar. Your characters might be afraid or unable to pass unnoticed in a place like that. But also it could be as fun as like the senior hallway if you're playing a team of freshmen, right? Could you keep your cool heading into the senior hallway at your school? Well, let's roll to find out. The other general ability that's important to mention is Throwdown. Throwdown is sort of the combat mechanic of BubbleGumshoe. But what makes Throwdown different is that it's purely social. This is not a fighting game, and so Throwdown is when you come into conflict with another, perhaps NPC or even character, and you sacrifice cool points in order to stay in the social conflict. This conflict could mean that you're in a social confrontation with a school bully, or this conflict could mean that you're trying to get past an overzealous hallway monitor. So you risk those cool points to stay in the conflict and hopefully come out on top. And if you do, then perhaps your cool can start going up the more throwdowns that you win. This mechanic can be a complex part of the game system, and if you ever find it too confusing, I've actually run successful BubbleGumshoe mysteries both with and without the throwdown mechanic. So keep in mind that it's maybe not entirely necessary, though it is fun, and I do recommend it. There is one final pool of points that's worth mentioning for the character creation process, and that is relationships. Characters can take on like, love, and hate relationships throughout an adventure, and they can use those relationships to accomplish tasks, find clues, and perhaps get away with something that they maybe normally wouldn't outside of this special relationship. Hate relationships aren't required, but you actually get more points to spend in like and love if you take on a hate relationship. So a lot of players do it because it adds some drama to the story, and there is like a mechanical benefit to doing so. In BubbleGumshoe, the stakes of the mysteries can be as low or as high as you want them to be. At my table, we have both saved homecoming and we have saved a kidnapping victim. Low stakes, high stakes. Although homecoming is pretty high stakes if you are a sophomore in high school, I suppose. So if you're considering running BubbleGumshoe for the first time, here are my 10 tips that I've picked up during my time playing the game. Tip number 1 is this. I recommend a lot of prep to start. And hear me out, because I know a lot of Game Master advice is don't prep so much. But for BubbleGumshoe, you actually want a fairly realized town with a lot of characters in it. And so I recommend one of two things. The first thing that I recommend is if you're planning on running a lot of BubbleGumshoe, then a session 0 would be great. This would allow the characters to flesh out the relationships that they have, as well as they can help build elements of the town, such as like where would the sleuths hang out? What is the school like? Do they have friends, bullies? Do their parents own a coffee shop in town? Things like that. You can share the load of building this world and help the characters come to know it well. But if you're just planning on playing every once in a while, then maybe I recommend the Game Master just doing a lot of prep beforehand. That way they can have those relationships created. They know about rival schools and they know the different places that the sleuths can and cannot go. My first game that I ran was actually during the COVID-19 pandemic lockdown, and we played online. And because I had a lot of time on my hands, I was able to successfully create a town and pre-generate some of the characters for my players to play. And they were perfectly happy coming in and playing as pre-made characters. It was a fun, diverse group of sleuths with a variety of skills that went well with each other, and they were able to already have a lot of those pre-made relationships good to go. The second tip kind of goes along with the first, and that's this. If that first tip sounds really intimidating, then don't be afraid to have your entire mystery take place in one location that you can control, such as the school or a town fair or a sleepaway camp or something like that. This way you can control where the players are going rather than just giving them free reign of the town where they can just go wherever they want and you maybe haven't prepped all of that. This also allows you to control the people that are in those places. I know who's at the school. I know who's at the town fair, and that could be pretty helpful as well. You can also use some of the pre-generated content that they have at the end of this book. They've got a lot of tips and pre-made towns, and that a lot of that could be helpful if you are a first-time game master. My third tip is this, and it's to play into the drama. The thing that separates BubbleGumshoe from other detective RPGs and just regular Gumshoe is that you are teenagers. A big part of the fun that we have at our table is acting out what's happening in the group chat, or trying to get home before dinner, or trying to sneak out of class so that we can solve the mystery before the grown-ups do. That's a really exhilarating and different sort of feel than any other RPG that I've played, and I think the more that we can play into that, the better. Tip number 4 is this. Create the sandbox that you want to play in. I knew that there were things that I wanted in my town, and so I made a town that had them. I knew that I wanted 2 rival schools, but it was a small town, so I thought about it, and I created the public school that most kids went to, and then I created a private international school that had students coming from all over the world and all over the country to come to it. It was a small Catholic school, but it gave me 2 rival schools, and it actually opened up a lot of doors for different types of mysteries to solve. I also knew that I wanted my sleuths to be able to get away to the ocean if there was like a beach episode, or to get away to the mountains if they're going to go skiing. And so I thought about where was a good place that I could have that, and I decided Central California. And so that's where I dropped my town. So think about, what elements do I want in my town? Do I want there to be an abandoned mine? Okay, where would that type of place be? Do I want it to be desert? Okay, what kinds of mysteries can be solved in the desert? You are the game master, so create the sandbox that you want to play in, and that will open up a lot of the mysteries that you want to tell. Tip number 5 is this. Don't withhold key clues. This is actually built into the rules of Gumshoe as well, that sleuths cannot miss a key clue to solving the mystery, but it's worth mentioning here as well. Now, of course, if they want to dig deeper, if they want to get help from an NPC or something like that, then put that behind a skill roll. But you can't put key clues behind a skill roll. You need to give them to the sleuths. Now, of course, you can make this sleuths kind of like ask for it, and you can try to work it into the narrative and work it around their skills, but you need to make sure that the sleuths leave each location with the key clues necessary to solving the mystery. That's an important part of this game, and that's actually good advice for any mystery that you're running, whether you're running a mystery in D&D or Fate or in Gumshoe. You got to make sure that your players can actually solve the mystery, otherwise you're just going to leave them extremely frustrated. My seventh piece of advice is going to sound like an odd one, but this is something that I've experienced both as a player and a game master before, and it's happened both in Gumshoe and in D&D, and that's this. If your players have solved the mystery, nudge them towards solving the mystery. Again, it sounds kind of weird, but like I've found myself as a player thinking that there must be more to the mystery and that I'm missing something, or I want to have all my bases covered. And as a GM, I've had my players that are like, it can't be that easy. There's got to be more to the mystery. And so they're running around trying to tie up every single loose end and trying to see if there's anything deeper that's in the plot. And I'm like, no, like just go confront the antagonist. Just go expose the mystery. But they're like, there must be more to the mystery. And that is a hard place to be. And I think it's just kind of natural because we want there to be like all of these twists and turns, and we think that there must be more to the mystery. But sometimes if it seems too easy, that was the mystery that was created. None of us are professional mystery writers, and this isn't like a Christopher Nolan movie, right? Like we want it to be solved within one session or 2 sessions. And so don't be afraid to kind of nudge them towards the exit of the story. Don't be afraid to tell them that it's time to wrap it up. They've solved it, you know? We can feel like we shouldn't get involved too much as the game master, but if they're just running around for the last hour, then that's kind of a waste of everybody's time, isn't it? And you're really going to lose momentum. The point of all role-playing games is to have drama and to have story, and so don't be afraid to lead them towards the end and conclusion of the mystery. Tip number 8. This is not a game of violence. This is not Dungeons and Dragons. You're not diving into dungeons and fighting monsters and slaying them. And this isn't Cyberpunk Red or something like that either. You're just a gang of teen sleuths. And so remember that your problems should not probably be solved by fighting. Yes, there is a fighting skill, but that's for very niche circumstances. Remember, there's no knife skill or gun skill in this game. And the only combat mechanic is a purely social one with throwdown. If you fight in this game, you're going to end up in detention or you're going to end up arrested. Parents don't let kids that fight go out to solve mysteries. And so help your players understand that this is not a violent game and that their players should not try to solve problems violently either. Tip number 9. Get paranormal if that's your thing. If you're trying to play out your Chilling Adventures of Sabrina or Teen Wolf Fantasies, then you should totally go for that. Paranormal teen stories are a genre all their own, and there's actually some features in this book that lend themselves to that. I've not used them myself, but I've left the door open for that in case I want to start incorporating that into my town that I've created. Now, of course, if you want like the paranormal aspect of the game to be the focus, then maybe BubbleGumshoe isn't the game for you. The features in this aren't super robust for that. If you want the more like vampires, werewolves story, then maybe Chronicles of Darkness is more your speed. And if you're going for Stranger Things, then maybe you want to use Kids on Bikes. But if you really want the focus to be the teen detective, then BubbleGumshoe is absolutely the system for you, and get paranormal. That's super fun. And my 10th tip is to take care of the real people at your table first and foremost. BubbleGumshoe is probably less likely to stir up uncomfortable situations than a game like Dungeons and Dragons or Cyberpunk Red or something, but there might be people at your table that are triggered by elements of bullying or drugs or something like that, and that might not be the type of story that they want to tell. So make sure that everybody at your table is always comfortable with what's happening, and don't be afraid to incorporate safety tools into your game to take care of the real people, because that should always be our first priority. priority. And there you have it. Those are my 10 tips if you're looking to run BubbleGumshoe. If you've played before, then please leave in the comments any tips that you might have for future players. And if you end up playing BubbleGumshoe because of this video, leave a comment and tell me how it goes. I'd love to hear it. That's it for me. My name was Nathan. Tamo junto.